When it comes to saying thank you, I like to customize it. Hello everyone, May Flaum here, and today I'm going to be walking you through this layered snowflake thank you card. Now first up, we're going to get all our scan and cut elements together. First up is creating a stencil. I have some stencil material, although cardstock and a number of other materials will work for a stencil. This particular material I'm using will be very reusable. I'm selecting my pattern, in this case a heart. Now, I don't intend the stencil to be used all together. I just want different shapes, different sizes, different orientations of heart that I can use, as you'll see me do when we assemble this card. So I am just increasing there in the edit screen of our scan and cut, and I can do everything off the machine. I love that. I'm just decreasing the sizes. I've got 4 different hearts. I can also rotate if I want them to be angled. You can create a pattern intended to use as a whole for a stencil. For this particular shape though, what I'm really looking for is to just have a couple of different sizes of heart that I can mix and match and pair together in my project. Once satisfied, you're just going to click all the way through the OK screen, select cut, let the scan and cut it out, and in just a moment, you will have yourself a stencil. Here I have my finished stencil. It's cutting, it's doing its thing, and voila, we have our stencil. We have these little cutouts, which actually you can use as embellishments on future projects. And we're moving on to the next thing. I'm actually going to go online to Brother Canvas Workspace, and I'm going to download a free Snowflake. There are free patterns here every month. All you have to do is click on it, and then it prompts you to download, and basically you're just downloading all of the pieces. You can also watch a how-to video. I just saw this snowflake and knew it was perfect snowflake for my card. So I'm downloading it, saving the FCM file or the scan and cut file to a USB, bringing it over here to my machine. There it is. Select OK, boom. It is that. I love how easy this is. I always take a look at those pictures and those projects because sometimes there's a cut file that I can use for a different project other than intended, and I just love that. What I am doing now is I selected everything but one snowflake with the little red boxes tool there and hit the trash can so that I just have the snowflake because that is all I want. Now I am going to be cutting this. Now I can just size it appropriately for my card, and I will cut this out. I'm going to be using glitter vinyl because it's a thicker heat transfer vinyl normally used onto fabrics, felts, that kind of thing, but you can actually heat transfer it onto paper. An awesome tip I learned from one of our Brother Facebook Lives, actually. So we are actually going to do this onto some glitter material, heat transfer vinyl. You could do this onto paper, onto whatever material you like. I just find that the vinyl cuts so beautifully, and I have some really beautiful white glitter vinyl that I want to use as well. Now, once it is cut out, here we go. All we're going to need to do is weed, which means just what it sounds like. Remove everything that you do not want to transfer onto the card, and then set it aside, and that is prepared. On to our next piece. Our next piece, I have some navy blue cardstock, and I'm going to cut out a scalloped base. I do not have any scalloped, deckled, or other fancy paper punches anymore because my scan and cut has so many shapes in it, I really don't ever use them. There is a really great one that has scalloped top and bottom that I use a lot on my projects. And I'm going to select it, and I'm also going to select the width and make sure that the width is 4 1/4 inches wide because that is how wide my card will be. And I can independently, by pushing this button right there, that little up, down, side to side, you can just change the width or just change the height so that you can create the exact shape and size that you need. So this is going, my snowflake here is going to go on top of that, and I'm just kind of visualizing it to myself here and making sure. I always check in with myself throughout the project process. Is this I think this is going to work? Is this approximately the right size? And if yes, I carry on. And if I'm not sure, I'll get out the ruler and measure and double check. Once this is all set, we can go in and cut. And I will want to take, so I had the half cut on for our vinyl because vinyl, we want to cut the vinyl, not the backing. I turned that back off for this because I did want it cut all the way through. Finally, here on our Scan and Cut, I'm going to be scanning. So with cursive fonts, I find that it works really well to print it out so that it, and then large, and then save it as a cut file. Because we have the scanning function, guess what? We can do that. That's really super easy. All we have to do is scan it, scan to cut data, and then scan it in. And then as you see, I pulled the arrows in and selected the type. I want the inside and outside lines saved. Save it to the machine. It's that quick and easy. Different fonts, you can also, you don't always have to print them. You can also use the free tool that Brother provides that will convert fonts and words that you type in into Scan and Cut files. But that's not, this was going to be the better way to do it for this particular font in this particular project. So I've got that all saved. We've got all of our other pieces. We know approximately what size we want this thanks to be. So I just need to go into my machine and retrieve that file. And once I have that file retrieved, I am going to go into Edit, click the little red boxes, and I'm selecting everybody because I want to unify this so that the whole word moves as one, so that we don't have, say, the middle of the A moving independently of everything else. Then I can go ahead and size this down, and it needs to be smaller than 4 1/4 to fit across our card, of course. And I'm just kind of going down, I think about 4 inches should be good. And once I have this how I like it, I'm going to cut this out of a cardstock. Select cut, and we already have half cut turned off, so we can just go ahead and click start and let the Scan and cut that out. Now we've got all of our pieces here and we are ready to create. I'm making sure that everything looks good, that all of the pieces, and here you can see I have 2 additional pieces of cardstock that are just cut to different heights, and I'm just layering everything on and making sure I like how it looks, making sure that there are no pieces that I want to redo or change how I might want to have them done, etc. Now, once I am sure I like everything and I'm thinking about glitter, I'm thinking about maybe a rhinestone in the middle of my snowflake, we're going to pull all the layers off and build from the bottom up, starting with our stencil. So I have some blue dye ink and I have a foam tool here, and I'm just going to be dabbing ink in each little spot on my stencil. This is super easy and super fun, and you can play with lots of color, a little color. And do you see how I'm moving the stencil around based on how my pieces look? So I'm not relying on designing the perfect stencil. I'm just wanting a couple sizes of a given shape, and then I'll move it around and go onward and just continue to layer. And this is all the same ink color, by the way. But once I have put a number of hearts across the top and bottom, and only the top and bottom because that's all that will be exposed, after I've done that, I will come in with a darker ink pad and add some more just for fun. And you might notice sometimes I re-ink, sometimes I don't, sometimes I try to get it really nice and dark, sometimes I want it really pale. It's totally personal preference, and there's really no wrong way to do it. It's honestly just a whole lot of fun. And once I've got, you can see I just keep going and going. I decided I really didn't want very many blank spots. I really wanted a number of hearts there. Now when I go in with the second color, what I'm going to do is actually overlap some of these hearts. And I'm just kind of checking that my tool is all good and my ink pad color is the color I think it is, and then onward. And you do not have to clean while you're doing this, as long as you're working like I am within the same color. You just have maybe a little bit of soap, or sometimes honestly just rinsing with water works as well, to clean off the stencil in between uses or when you change colors, because you won't want any of that ink getting on your projects. Now, once we are done inking, it's time to get out the adhesive, and I'm just using a double-sided tape and start assembling our card. So I've got the scalloped piece that we cut out from my Scan and Cut, and I'm just making sure it's all nice and lined up straight. Place it down. And then working, like I said, from the back forward. So we're going to build the other pieces of paper here, just adding it double-sided adhesive on the back, and then making sure it looks fairly centered and adhering it down. I really like to try to have a good amount of contrast and between my colors. I like to have a lot of texture, but I don't like a ton of bulk on my card. So that is one of the reasons I really love this project, because while it is a lot of layers and things going on, it's not a ton of texture. And one of my favorite ways, or excuse me, it's a lot of texture without a lot of bulk. I've got my sewing machine just set at a nice basic stitch, and I go this slow around the edge to add that texture without adding that bulk. It's that bulk I really don't want to have to deal with if I'm mailing the card. Now we have our snowflake that is still on the heat transfer material, and I'm working on a thick felt mat that is intended for exactly this, for ironing, and I've got my iron all heated. And now I'm just going to have some material here, and we are just going to press like we would if it was a fabric, and then I will just check. And if it's not all the way down, I will do it again. But I am so glad I learned this tip, because this is so super cool. I never knew we could use our heat transfer vinyl and heat transfer onto a card. It's definitely a game changer. Then I'm taking our thanks, which is super thin, and I will be honest, I could have used a double-sided adhesive sheet under the word thanks when I first cut it out. I didn't think of that, so next best thing, I'm just lightly putting a clear drying, no residue adhesive all over the back of it, because I don't have an adhesive with a super fine tip. An adhesive with a super fine tip would work as well. You just need to find a way to adhere it down without adding a lot of goopy glue that's going to, make mess or be an issue. And by the way, with regards to the stitching, when we are done, and this card front, because we are just working on a 5.5 by 4.25 card front, will get placed onto a blank card, all of that stitching will disappear because it will be hidden between those layers, so you won't see the back side of the stitching. Now I'm just using a bit of adhesive to finish this up. I have a little star-shaped gem that I think would be really pretty in the middle. And I'm also thinking about some little droplets of glue, or glitter glue, I should say, on the scallops. I just think that'll add a cute little touch, nice and festive, wintry thank you. This card is really a lot of fun to create, and there's so many techniques and layers, and yet at the same time, we're able to do this quickly and have a really good time with it, because the Scan and Cut helps us out and brings so many really neat projects to life with the way that it can cut materials and the way that it can help me take my crazy crafty ideas and turn them from a mere idea into a reality. I hope you have enjoyed this video. This certainly was a fun card to make. Be sure to stay tuned for